If you've ever been through something truly traumatic and really struggled to survive and thrive on the other side, you are going to love today's episode of the Unlock Your Blocks podcast. My name is Elyssa Smith, and I'm a trauma informed executive coach and the host of the podcast. And I have an amazing guest that is with me today who did just that. And not only did she survive, but she is thriving today. And she's one of the most delightful humans you will ever hear from. Rochelle Gilbert runs a property investment company in the UK, helping business owners invest their profits into property hands free so they can create passive income. And listen, if you are one of my fellow business owners, we hear those words and our ears go perk, perk. We're like, yes, passive income, please. So Rochelle's going to dish on how this works today. But so that they can build passive income, build generational wealth. Isn't that wonderful? And all the while spending more time with their families and doing what they do best in their business. Rochelle, thank you so much for being here today. I have been looking forward to this interview for so long. I super appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, get us started here because I know that my people who are my passive income language people, they are wanting to know exactly how this works. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? And then after that, I'm going to ask you how you got into it, which is a really beautiful, tragically beautiful story, how you got to the level of ease and abundance and joy where you are today. But tell us a little bit about what you do in your business.
So I think the way you described it was perfect. Basically, we work on behalf of clients. We find them a property that's in need of renovation. So we'll find them the house, then we'll manage the renovation, then we'll rent it out for them at the end. So we manage the full process. So I've got clients. I'm based in the UK in South Yorkshire, and I've got lots of clients in the south of England where properties are much more expensive. And I've got a client in Brazil. I've got a client in Abu Dhabi. So lots of people come to me from around the world who want to invest in property but just haven't got the time or the knowledge to do it themselves.
I think that really is what stops us because I remember being at a mastermind retreat last year, and one of the people that was there, she's like this real estate mogul, and she's talking about the benefits of passive income of real estate. And she's like, yeah, you just need to find the property, and then you need to invest in the property, and you need to have it inspected, and you need to do this. And she listed out everything that needs to be done, and I was like, I'm out. I can't. That's not passive. I'm going to work my hands to the bone on this. So I so appreciate the way that your company is set up for the ease of who you serve. And we can get into that a little bit more too. But I also want you to share the story that you shared with me when we were in Malta about how you got started. And just as a gentle trigger warning to our listeners, she lost her partner. Her partner passed away, and she shares this story in such a beautiful way. But if you need to fast forward this episode because this is too triggering for you, that is okay. But and if you need to just kind of skip ahead a few frames or just turn the volume down for a couple of minutes, that is absolutely fine. Do take care of yourself while you hear. But the wonderful thing about how Rochelle helps us experience her story is that there's so much joy that has come from tragedy. So, Rochelle, can you walk us through how you ended up with this business?
Yeah, of course. So, property is something, or real estate, as obviously you've got a lot of listeners in the States as well. It's always been something I've been passionate about from being around 11. We've got a program here called Homes Under the Hammer, where people go to auction and they buy houses through auction and then they renovate them. And I can remember being 11 years old and watching this program and thinking, oh, I'd love to do something like that. But where I was from and the family that I was from, there wasn't anybody doing property. My mum bought her first house when I was 11, and she paid £15,000 for it. And I can remember the cogs turning in my brain and thinking, like, we used to rent a house and now we've bought this house. Imagine if you could buy houses and rent them out. That must be a great way to make a lot of money. But life gets in the way, and I became an adult, and I got boyfriends and distracted by going out too much and jobs and everything like that. And I forgot about a lot of my dreams. Um, but I had a nice life. I had two children, got married. My In 2018, my children were 2 and 4. Maisie, my eldest, and then a little boy, Joshua. And we had such a nice life. We had a big house. went on nice holidays. My husband did work really long hours, so that was sometimes I felt like I was doing it alone, but he made up for it by the nice holidays and the things that we got to enjoy. He um he was constantly saving for retirement. I think he had this idea that he needed to build this retirement pot, otherwise he was going to get to a certain age and then not be able to afford to live anymore. So he was constantly just thinking we need to get money and invest it into a pension and save, save, save. So even though we had a nice house and nice holidays, in between those times, it could be quite tight with his money and sort of hoard it. In October 2018, our little girl Maisie had just started primary school, and he, on a rare occasion, decided he was going to pick her up from school, and I'd stay at work a bit longer. And while he was picking her up, I got a phone call from a neighbour to say that there was an ambulance outside of our house and that my husband was in it. So I rushed home from work to find this ambulance there, and a policewoman stood outside. Basically said they were trying to do everything they could, but then came to tell me that unfortunately there was nothing that they could do, and it was such a shock. He'd not been ill. There was nothing wrong with him. He was perfectly fit and healthy as far as we were concerned. I think he'd had a bit of a chest infection, and that, like, nothing unusual. So it was a complete shock, and my whole life felt like it was just turned upside down. And the first few days, I think I was just shaking the entire time, and I had to break the news to Maisie, my little girl, who had been with him at the time when he passed away. And that was the most heartbreaking experience of my life, having to let her know that her daddy wasn't coming back home. And I think the question she asked was, "Have the doctors fixed daddy yet?" And to say no was just heartbreaking. So
So
then,
you're dealing with your own grief, and then you're dealing with the grief of your
yeah,
children.
and
And
that's
then you're
constant.
dealing with just the questions of like, how are we surviving now?
Yeah, exactly. And that's been something that has been a bit of a struggle the entire um 7 years, because like, dealing with their grief and dealing with your own grief, and me not always wanting to talk about it and them wanting to talk about it, and making sure that I'm looking after myself but also looking after their needs as well, is very, very difficult. But the way that I dealt with it at first was to throw myself into planning the funeral and sorting out the finances, which kind of things you have to do anyway. But I was like all in. It was almost like it was a project for me that just meant I didn't have to think about real life. It was like, right, what do I need to do next? Admin, admin, admin. And then after the funeral, I just went back to work, because I thought I can't just sit at home and do nothing, because then I'm going to start thinking about all the things that I've been through. And at this moment in time, I don't want to think about any of it. I want constant distractions. But the problem was, at work, I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't do the work to a good standard. I was in an office where there was only one other person working because two other people were off sick, and it was a really lonely environment. So I was just as lonely at work as I was at home. So then I started to look for other distractions and other ways to satisfy myself, and I started going out too much. Um, I started, like, just not drinking in the house or anything like that, but drinking on nights out, looking for fun, uh, going on holidays with my friends, and that felt like a good distraction. It felt like I could find joy again, and that joy did exist. But at the same time, I knew that wasn't something that I could continue with for my entire life. I'd got my two children that I wanted to set a good example for, and I knew that I was meant for more. That I had, like, I'd learned that life's too short and we need to make the most of it. And making the most of it is not going out every week and drinking and dancing. It's like doing something purposeful and with intention.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so you were kind of in this place where everyone who's been through a major, massive trauma finds themselves, which is, how do you create a life after this trauma? So how did you decide? Because there are so many ways that you could have sabotaged all of this. Like you're even talking about, you were depending on going out and that kind of thing to numb the pain. What made it so that you were able to, I guess, what are the steps to starting the business? What was the very first, did you just buy a property for, like, how did you decide? Was it financially driven? How did, it's such a wonderful business. I'm like, how did this happen?
So I was kind of lucky at the time that I'd got a couple of friends who had started a business similar to mine, and they'd been and they'd done some property training, and they'd come back and they'd said, right, um we're going to start finding houses for people, and we're going to renovate them. And I was confused by the business model. I'd never heard of it before. In a similar way to when I told my friends what I was doing, they were confused a lot, but you don't know anything about property. um, and they'd been doing it for a little while, and I decided I was going to buy a property through them. But it didn't work out. The property fell through, and I started to think, should we look for another one? Or actually, my background was in marketing, and what I was seeing with the people that were running this business, the main thing they were doing was marketing. The property was kind of like a side thing. The first thing was marketing, and I thought, well, I know how to market, so maybe this is something that I could do. So I went on the same property training that they'd done, which was like a 4-day crash course in learning how to do property. And I came out and my mind was blown, and I had this fire inside myself that I'd lost when my husband passed away. I'd not felt passionate about anything until that point. And I knew as soon as I came out of that course that I was going to make this work. And I probably did set it up as another distraction, but a much healthier distraction than drinking and dancing and going out too much. So I just threw myself into creating this business. And the first property I did was for myself. So I bought this house, renovated it, didn't have a clue about the property course taught me a lot, but I didn't have a clue about the actual mechanics of buying a property and the different stages of the renovation or anything like that. So I was like, I have to do it for myself first. I can't just go and do this for other people. So made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of lessons on that project, and then gradually started doing it for other people. And now I've done 50 renovations over the last 5 years.
That's incredible. That's so amazing. And I think it's so interesting because you could have stopped yourself at any point, that could have gotten in your way. Have you noticed, or looking back, do you see self-sabotage? So we talk about the 3 Ps: procrastination, perfectionism, and people pleasing. We talk about imposter syndrome, negative self-talk. Did you run into those things along the way?
Yes, definitely. I think they're all things that I am definitely familiar with, and I think as a business owner and in property, it's very much a roller coaster ride. There've been times where I've wondered why I started this. There've been times where I've been ready to quit. There's definitely been procrastination. And imposter syndrome. Like I remember the first time I spoke to a potential client, like my palms were sweaty and my heart was racing, and I just all of a sudden I just felt like I didn't know anything and I couldn't remember my name. But then once I started talking, I realized actually I do know quite a lot, and it was a confidence booster. And then the next one was a little bit easier, and the next one was easier, and now it's just something that I do all the time with no nerves. So there's been lots of pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and dealing with that imposter syndrome and procrastination, and just putting one foot in front of the other.
That makes total sense. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think what's so interesting is, just describing the sweaty palms moment. I think all of us can relate to this because it is something that we all experience when our nervous system is like, I'm not going to do this. And so we have all these stress tells, right? Just like getting sweaty or forgetting our name and all of that. But I love what you said about you did it the one time and then it was a little easier the next time, a little easier the next time, because our nervous system isn't interested in anything that it doesn't recognize. And
Yeah.
so it's oftentimes if we can find a small enough entry point, like a low enough entry point to just have the first conversation, then we build a track record of safety in doing that thing. And so your nervous system was kind of creating this memory of, okay, I did that and I didn't die. Because our nervous system thinks that no matter what, it's having that first conversation to sell your services in your business is the same stress response as being chased by a wild animal. So for you to be facing all that down in the wake of grief and trying to make a life for yourself is so phenomenal. What would you say was the thing, like what is the reason that you were able to get through, let's say, that first sales conversation with a potential client? Did you have something that you were hanging on to? Did you have a really strong why? Did you, were you like just flying blind? Like how did you get through that first conversation? What do you think drove you to not give up on it?
Well, it's interesting because I've just realised I've still definitely got some nervous system blocks where, like, picking up the phone and cold calling someone, my body will not allow me to do that. I just can't. I just can't do it. So there's definitely still
Me
some
neither.
things. Yeah. So there's still some things that I definitely fight against doing. Uh, with that one, I think I probably didn't know it at the time, but my why has always been like a combination of knowing that life's too short and I need to make the most of this life that I've been given. And I've always known that I was meant for more. And I can in that married life I was just plodding along and just letting life happen to me. And I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to make my own decisions. And I could see other people being successful, doing what I wanted to do, and I wanted to follow in their footsteps. So I knew that I had to do these things, and also I wanted to, like, when I came off the course, one of the first things I started doing was posting to social media consistently, and I was sharing my story. And I said to you before we started recording, like, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about sharing my story is because I want other people who've either experienced similar to me or have maybe not gone through massive traumas, or just to see that it is possible. If it's possible for me, then it's possible for them. And I'm a big believer in this. We just need to take the small steps. I've listened to the compound effect, is that the right name, of the book before, and I was listening to it again yesterday actually, and that's an amazing book. And one of the things that I did was listen to lots of audiobooks, start listening to podcasts, things that I'd never done before I got into business, and that really helped me to get through things and keep going. But I've got a vision for myself. I want to be speaking on big stages. I want to be traveling around the world speaking. I want to help as many people as possible, in whether it's to invest in property or just to inspire them to do more with their lives. And to do that, I need to be visible. I need to have these conversations. I need to have my business and move forward with it.
Oh, it's so good. What was the name of the book again?
The compound effect.
The Compound Effect. Okay, thank you so much. That is so fantastic. And I do think that when we have had a significant trauma, and God forbid that someone would have a death or that big of a loss or a near death experience themselves or an illness. I have a lot of clients who have had, a cancer diagnosis or something that spurred them to start making the most of their life. And so, that is a really beautiful thing that comes out of those moments. But in general, when we experience that our nervous system has some sort of like a whoa, the pain of staying in that lifestyle, like you said, plodding along, is worse than the pain of trying something new, because you could see, and I love that too, that you could see other people doing what you wanted to do and they were doing it successfully. I do think that really helps the nervous system feel safer. If we know that there is a path out there that led someone else to success, I love that you didn't let it discourage you, like, oh, there's already people doing this, I shouldn't do it. It's no, they're successful and that looks fun to me and I want to do it. And that's
Yeah.
how I want to help people. And it's so neat too. And when you and I chatted in Malta a little bit just about like how possible it is for people to invest and then have such a different lifestyle for their families after purchasing, their first property and working with you on it, and then your company supervises the rental and all that kind of stuff, like just taking making the barrier of entry so low for someone like me that has no idea what they're doing and
Yeah.
can't not going to be able to manage a home rental in Yorkshire, like I can't, like that is so beautiful that you create passages for other people to get a leg up, and I think that is a powerful why as well.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing I was seeing other people, like people in prop wanting to get into property and spending the whole weekends traveling to go and view properties instead of spending it with the children, or instead of going on holiday with the kids and doing the things that they love doing. So if I'm able to offer that service, they then get to spend more time with their families, and also they're building that wealth for the long term, so they're not having to they're making the money work for them instead of them having to work harder for their money.
And that's such a beautiful thing because, for particularly for business owners, that's what we're looking for is more impact for less energy drain. And I think that too, one of the things that's really powerful for overcoming self-sabotage where the nervous system just is saying, no, stop, this doesn't feel safe. This is not something we recognize, is if you, for women in particular, if we are motivated by helping someone else and knowing that we have the thing that they need, that can get us past a lot of our own self-sabotage, don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, and actually speaking about that, in the first couple of years, my mum left her job. She was quite unhappy in her job, and she'd got my little sister who was at primary school, so I think she was probably like 9 at the time, and it helped her to come out of her job, and she came to work for me. Again, my sister came to work for me, so I was able to support my family as well as supporting other people. So it's opened lots of doors and opportunities.
And that does tend to, if we can connect to the heart behind what we're doing in our business and in our endeavors, and just remember that, like, hey, my job, I'm doing this. And most high achieving women are in positions where they're helping other people, whether it's, being a C suite executive or an entrepreneur, we are trying to do work that matters. And that can be so powerful. The meaning behind it can be so powerful to overcome the self sabotage that comes with. Now, I have a question about the people that you help, because I could imagine that for my nervous system, with my first, which I'm going to purchase a property, girl. So you be ready. I'm coming for it for you.
Mhm.
I could imagine that my nervous system will freak out when I am saying I'm going to invest in something, especially particularly if I'm abroad and I'm not where you are with the properties. I could imagine there would be a lot of self sabotage you see in your clients where they may not be successful, or they may not be able to get past that barrier of the nervous system. So what do you see
Yeah.
happen with people who are doing
So
something?
there's two parts to that really. Women, I've not had very many female clients, and I think that's probably one of the reasons. And it's my goal for next year to work with a lot more females. I think naturally we're more risk averse. Whereas the men are just like they'll go in and put all the money on red at the casino, where women will like think a little bit more stereotypically. Uh, but also with the men, they're nervous, and I understand the even with the price point that we're buying property at, which is around £100,000 for like 2 and 3 bed houses, they it's a lot of money. They've worked hard to earn that money, and the last thing they want to do is lose it. So often what people will do is they'll put off investing because of different conditions in the market. So we've had Brexit and COVID and wars and a massive interest rate spike and all these different things that have put people off investing in property. But in the meantime, the people who have invested have made loads of money. The properties have gone up in value. They've been getting rent all that time. And I think it's showing people that yes, you are buying this property, but you're taking money from the safety of a bank account and investing it safely into bricks and mortar. I don't want people to be taking massive risks with, and some people who do what I do, they will encourage you to take big risks, and bigger risks mean bigger returns, but they can also mean bigger losses. And I don't want people to lose money. I've lost money myself investing with the wrong people. So I had some spare money that I put into some other projects with some other people, and they went into liquidation owing £2 million to private investors. And like that's one of my missions is to stop that from happening and make sure that people making con- like they're considering the investments that they're making, and they're making good investment choices rather than just giving it to the person that shouts the loudest and that claims that they're going to get the biggest returns. Actually, sometimes you're going to get more money from having a smaller return and actually getting your money back than going for the bigger returns and risking losing it. So that's one of my missions. I completely understand why people go into freeze mode, because there are, especially in this day and age with the internet, there are a lot of scams about, and we need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and protecting our hard earned cash, but also to become wealthy and to make money, we have to take these risks. Everything I've done in starting my business has been a risk. Everything, and probably the same for you. You'll have taken some big risks to get started here, and that's what you need to do. Whether it's investing in a pension, investing in the stock market, or investing in property, it all comes with its own risks, and it's just being educated around that to make the least risky decisions.
Yeah, and I like what you said too, that you don't want your clients to take huge risks. You want them to make a smaller investment, something that feels more manageable so that they can be guaranteed the return and then make their money back fast. I think that's really key. So again, I just keep coming back to this idea of the barrier of entry. Anytime we're doing something new, you're starting your business or somebody's investing, in a property that you find for them. We have to find a window of tolerance that works for the level of risk that we're taking. And it increases the window of tolerance for risk taking when we know exactly why we're doing it. And I love that you
Yeah,
paint that picture of like, instead of you going and looking at properties and spending all your weekends at open houses for 6 months until you find like you can hire a company that will do it for you. And instead of like, you're painting this lifestyle of ease and abundance, even in the process of going for the passive income. And I think that when we can really center ourselves, and your thought process when you were having that first uncomfortable conversation with the potential client, like, okay, I need to get through this conversation because I cannot be successful at this until I get to the other side of this conversation. And I want to help people and I want to be successful for my kids. So just the fact that you can create a comfort with risk based on what you're going for and based on this is the next right step. So either I want this thing, I have this why, or I'm not going to go for it. So really deciding what that why is can bring you over that, barrier of entry. And I just love how it worked for you and then how you help it work for your clients.
yeah,
So if there's
exactly. And
someone listening, right? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, different clients, like some really need the hand holding the entire time and need lots of reassurance that this is going to be a good investment, whereas others are just like, usually the men, they're just like, yeah, whatever, that's completely fine, and they're open to it, and they've not got those same levels of risk as what we've got.
It's so fascinating to hear the differences between men and women. Okay, ladies, we've got our work cut out for us because we need to be also out there getting wealthy, getting passive income, taking the risks that we're comfortable with, not, just going willy nilly and just investing in stuff, but vetting where we're putting our money and where we're putting our time and energy because it's all so valuable. Our time and energy is as valuable as our money, if not more so. So I love that we can challenge ourselves as women. Why are we leaving, all this success on the table to the men? Like, let's go. Like, let's bring this into the next level for women across the board. And I also, there is an author that I like listening to her books. Rachel Rogers, she talks about what women do with money versus men and how women nine times out of 10, or even greater percentage than that, will take their money and invest it back into other women and children. And whereas men are using it to like make more money, or they're, sometimes giving back. There are some good guys out there, but in general, women who are looking to get wealthy are the ones who are going to change the world. Actually, we're the ones that are going to
Yeah.
help people the most. So yeah, I love
One
that. I
of
love that delineation between the men and women.
one of my mentors, she talks about putting more money into the hands of good people. Like there's a lot of people who've got a lot of money who are not doing good with it, but if we can put more money into the hands of people who are going to do good with it, we can change the world. And I think, like you say, women are key to that movement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so it's crazy how much time flies when we're having fun,
It
right?
does.
So we're right at the end of the interview, but I want to ask you a couple of questions that I ask all of my guests. So the first one I want to ask you is, if there's someone listening today and she is either identifying with your story of tragedy and loss and trying to rebuild, or she's realizing like, I really do want to take the first steps to invest. This is a part A, part B question. Can you walk her through what the first step would be? So part A, what's the first step for her from your perspective to recover from the tragedy and take steps to find her power and her why?
Yeah.
And then also, if she wants to, we have someone listening who wants to invest, where does she begin?
So I think from if somebody's in my situation, I actually had a friend a distant friend, we'd met on holiday a long time ago. We were friends on Facebook, and his wife sadly passed away. And he messaged me straight away, and he was just like, how have you coped with this? Like, obviously, in so much trauma, and it's very difficult because you want to reassure them that everything is going to be okay, but you also have to understand that right now it doesn't feel that way. Like everything feels like your life is just completely turned upside down. Everything's up in the air, and what even is the point of your life anymore? And even though I'd got my two children, I still had that feeling of extreme loss. I think the children helped giving me a reason to get up every day, but I think we have to create those reasons for ourselves and just find something. Just if you can take that message away, realize that life is too short and live your life almost for that other person. That other person got their life taken away too short and didn't get to live it. So now this is our opportunity to go out there and make them proud. And I think that's the place where I was coming from. And I think if you can do that and keep moving through, like I've got an amazing family now. My partner Chris is amazing and such a good dad to the kids, and they absolutely love him, and we've got a nice life. And I think people think when they lose somebody so close, it has to be the end of everything, but actually, it can be the start of something new. And that doesn't take away anything from how much I loved my husband or how much I love Chris now. It almost feels like it's two completely separate lives that I've lived. So I think it's just being around positivity. So actually, I was speaking to my cousin this morning, and she's started her own business and she's struggling. She's putting all this effort into it, and she's not seeing the results, and she's got some negativity from family in her life, and that had put her in a bad mood. And she spoke to me this morning, and she came off the call, and she was full of enthusiasm after talk. She started the call crying, ended the call excited and enthusiastic about life. And I think surrounding yourself with those people who help to lift you up, so you want to be around the positive people that are giving you the right message and encouraging you to live the best version of your life that you can.
That's
And then
beautiful.
no, and then the next one was about if they wanted to start investing in property. um so I think there's definitely some things to consider. I've got an ebook that outlines a few things that you need to consider. So there's lots of things like how much money you've got access to, how much time you've got set aside, like what your long term goals are. So I think the first step is to start doing a little bit of research, having a look at something like my ebook, but not I think having a short term goal, because sometimes people leave it way too long. But if you can start setting some money aside now. What I see a lot in business and with people like footballers, sports people, they earn a lot of money in a short period of time, spend it all on houses and like the home that they live in, cars, going out, holidays, and then when that lifestyle ends, the money's not coming in anymore and they're left with very little. So if they can start straight away taking that money and investing it into something, whether it's property or stocks and shares, then that secures their life, their lifestyle for much longer than just that short burst of money that they're getting.
I love that. And we will put a link to your ebook in the notes so that people can grab that if whenever they want to. Okay, so a
Brilliant.
couple quick questions to close us out. If you are in a funk, what is the song that can snap you out of it? Or if you're trying to get psyched up for something, what's your go-to pump up song?
So I don't know if I've got an exact song, but I'm like lots of things coming to my mind, and they're usually like musical songs. So I love singing. So I actually have singing lessons. I started it with my daughter, and then she stopped coming, and I carried on going, and I just love it. Once a week, it's just something that's for me. And I love singing songs from musicals. So like Wicked is a favorite at the moment, and I love oh, what's that one called? I've forgotten the name. The Greatest Showman. I think those kind of big, powerful songs. Just I just oh Six. I don't know if you've seen Six the musical. Oh, it's
I
amazing. So it's
haven't.
about Henry VIII and his six wives, and it's from the six wives' point of view. The songs are amazing. The outfits are fabulous. I love it. So
Wow.
anything like that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm such a theater kid. I love musicals too. That's amazing.
Oh,
I love
you'll
that.
have to see Six then. Start listening to
Absolutely.
the soundtrack on, and you'll enjoy it. I'm sure.
Oh, fantastic. That's a great recommendation. Thank you. And then final question, what is your go-to self-care if you just have 5 minutes?
So this is probably something that I'm not brilliant at, and I've been taking note and trying to do more. One of the things I love to do is just have a cup of tea. I'm like, this sounds so English, doesn't it? Sit there with a cup of tea and just and look out of my window. So I've got a really beautiful view out of my window in the hills with trees and green grass and things. So just sitting there can and having 5 minutes is nice. What I really love is being in a hot tub. So we hired a hot tub for my birthday, and I feel like that just relieves all. When I get in there, it's like all my problems just dissolve in the water. So we've had one a couple of times this year, but I need to have more baths because I think a bath would do similar. But I always feel like when I go in the bath, I need to have a couple of hours, and I never have a couple of hours spare. It's a bit longer than a 5 minute treat.
Yes, that makes so much sense. Yes, a nice hot soak sounds wonderful. That's such a good idea. And
Yeah.
there's something about the water. I mean, there's really something special about that. So if you can let our listeners know, where can they find you? If they want to follow along, if they want to connect with you, what's the best place for them to find you? And we will also put these in the show notes.
Yeah, so I'm quite visible across multiple platforms. LinkedIn is one of my favourites, and Instagram and Facebook. But if you just search Rochelle Gilbert, there's only one of me.
Perfect. That's actually really handy. That's really
It
fun.
is.
Yeah,
I
such
love
a
it.
unique name.
I've not been able to find another one, so if there is another one, come and say hello. But I don't think there is.
Wouldn't it be funny if she found you through this podcast? I would love that.
Yeah.
Rochelle, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I so appreciate all of your insights. I know that there are people who have listened to this and are going to be forever changed and motivated to go towards their dreams.
No, I hope so.
Have a wonderful day. And for those of you listening, you can always catch all the links that we talk about in the show are in the show notes. You can also download my free guide, 5 nervous system hacks you can do at your desk, and that will get you on your way to nervous system regulation so that you can build an abundant life of ease without your nervous system getting in the way. Until next time, take such good care of yourself.